Uh-huh. I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box. And you cannot compare them at all, so don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Yeah. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Woo. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
All right. Well, welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Football Roundtable podcast. Matt will be with us in a minute, but as is the fun in a lot of areas of the country in spring and early summer, he is getting pounded by hail. So we are just going to get this kick started. We have so much to talk about, but before we dive in, Dennis, have you survived? Are your eyes tired from Twitter the last few days?
No, I've been enjoying the excitement. My eyes are tired because I had to get up and go to work early this morning. And I was up late yesterday because I was, theoretically, when the off season hits, we're supposed to spend more time with the family. And, well, we do Dynasty and all year round. And so that's, we don't have that off season schedule. So I was doing a whole bunch of stuff, and I couldn't actually get to work until about 10 o'clock last night. So actually the excitement's what's been keeping me awake, all these posts, all this.
I know. I was afraid to put my phone down, and, I closed Twitter for this. I'm sure there will be some kind of earth-shaking signing in that time, but
I'll let you know because I did.
It has been a long stretch at work here. For me, this is, I think, day 9 in a row, and I still have a meeting to go to tonight. But at least the NFL
77 more days in a row, right?
No, I start vacation on Saturday, and it cannot come soon enough. But we will dive right in because of all the news, and perhaps the biggest news was Tom Brady spent a couple of quality months with his wife and kids and decided that that was enough and has unretired. For the time being, it looks like he's certainly back with Tampa Bay. It'll be interesting to see if the rest of Mike Florio's projection of him unretiring and then getting traded to San Francisco comes true. But what does it mean for Tampa Bay that he unretired? They also re-signed Ryan Jensen, the center, for 3 years, $39 million. They re-signed Jamal Dean, one of their defensive backs, and of course Chris Godwin, the franchise tag. A lot of people think Brady strategically timed unretiring on Sunday night so that all those free agents out there would know the Bucs are back in business.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I saw somebody say something about he was the Antichrist. That's why it was 40 days long, something like that, his retirement. So
that's Lent.
Right. So he I was in the camp of I did not believe he was coming back. I felt like he was going to be satisfied building a media and supplement business empire, but clearly I was wrong. So he felt like he could. I mean, there was nothing in his play to suggest he could not still play at a high level. So I get that, but sometimes I'm back. Am I back? I took it for what it was worth that he was retiring, but I also hedged my bets and did not cut him from any of my dynasty teams yet. So I think he's going to go on and have a good year. I don't know if Fournette's coming back. I feel like he'd like to, and I'm certainly of the belief that Rojo is not back. So obviously Gronk will probably be back. It doesn't look like they're going to try to hold on to OJ Howard and bring him back. So, Gronk, Brait, Keyshawn Vaughn, and Lenny. Maybe they bring in a third down back, more traditional third down back. It was exciting. It was really exciting for him to announce it. His FU to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and I think Tampa Bay, of course, goes back to being an instant contender, especially in a division that's a little bit in flux. It seems like Deshaun Watson has narrowed down his choices to the Panthers or Saints. So that would probably change the fortunes of one of those teams. But we had thought before Brady unretired that maybe Atlanta needed to hold on to its pieces and try to make a run because it looked like they were the only team that had a quarterback in the division. So it's probably huge. I agree with you. They've got to do something in the backfield. I doubt both Gronk and Ronald Jones are back, but I would guess, or both Fournette and Ronald Jones are back, but I would guess one of them is, or they go get some kind of a running back. I doubt they're going to just run the whole season with Vaughn, but I am at the same time as somebody that was curious to see Keyshawn Vaughn. Do hope he gets a little bit of a shot there. The only people I feel really bad for is the guy that paid $518,000 for Brady's last touchdown ball. Congratulations. That sucks. And
that suck though?
You held on to Brady. I held on to Brady. I saw some people set him adrift in leagues. I am sure they have regret.
Well, I saw, who was it? Our Dynasty Nerd social media guy, Luke Sawhook. He was raving about trading Brady for Will Fuller a little while ago. He spent yesterday taking his L.
God, I know. Who knows? I forgot Will Fuller is even still in the NFL. Well, we're going to move along. I'm going to skip ahead because we want our friend Matt to be back for this second piece. So we will jump down to the Cardinals. They lost Chase Edmonds, but we will get to that when we get to our Dolphins block. They re-signed Zach Ertz, who they traded for midseason, 3 years, $31.65 million. And they re-upped with James Conner, who looked really good in that system last year. 3 years, $21 million. What do you make of the signings for fantasy and for the Cardinals?
I love the Ertz signing. I think he carved out a nice role there. I think the days of him catching, 90 passes for 1,000 yards and 8 or 10 touchdowns are in the rearview mirror. But he's still going to be a highly productive fantasy tight end. So he'll be back half of the tight end ones, I think. And then as far as Connor, my only concern with Connor is the way that he plays. He's susceptible to injury, so they're going to have to go out and get somebody to make sure they have a capable backup. Hi, Zara. And if they don't have it, because I don't think Jonathan Ward is the answer there. I don't know that Eno Benjamin is the answer there as the RB2. While Connor can play all 3 downs, the way he plays is he plays hard and tough, and he takes a beating, and you have to have a capable backup. I like both moves. I think that losing Kirk and AJ Green being a free agent still, I think their wide receiver depth has to be addressed.
Well, I would argue that they lost AJ Green somewhere around November, based on the way he was playing. Maybe we'll actually get to see them use Rondale more after drafting him, perish the thought. I liked bringing Ertz back too, because he seemed to develop a chemistry with Kyler Murray and seemed to be one of the most reliable security blankets and a guy that Murray looked for when he was in trouble. I'm happy they brought back Connor too. I agree with you. They're going to have to do something. I'm not so sure it isn't they draft or wait and see what's left on the secondary market. But Matt has recovered from Hail-Mageddon 2022. We shall rebuild.
I apologize if you guys heard me yelling. My dog is like terrified of storms, and my son was worried he was going to eat his donuts, so I had to tell him to calm down. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for Zach Ertz to be back there too. Obviously, he really looked like he played. He almost, I don't want to say revived his career, because I don't. Not all of us thought that it was a bad move for him, but he definitely looked better than we saw him at the end of his Philly career. I would be excited about Rondale Moore, but I'm pretty sure last I checked, Cliff Kingsbury's still the coach, and I don't know that he knows how to use him the right way. So I feel like it's great news for Rondale Moore with what's going on with Kirk leaving, but I'm not so sure. It does suck, if I'm being honest, that they brought back James Conner, because I felt like Arizona was really like one of those prime spots for one of those top 3 running backs. And the other one that I thought was a prime spot just signed the guy from Arizona. So I feel like the spots we were hoping, like the Breece Hall, the Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, and Isaiah Spiller spots, those kind of like are kind of get taken away now with free agency. So Zara mentions Jerry and Ely. I mean, that would be a interesting spot. I don't know if they'd go Ely as the receiving back, or do they take a shot on like Rashad White, who can do both? I don't know. I'm very intrigued to see what they do, but it's probably a good move because of how good Connor was for them, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yep. So we did Tom Brady, we did the Cardinals. We saved the most important for your return, and that is Matt Nice man crush, Amari Cooper, leaving the confines of Dallas for the Cleveland Browns. Cooper and the Cowboys' 6th round pick were traded to Cleveland for Cleveland's 5th and 6th round pick. So we'll start with the Browns. What does that do for you, Matt? Jarvis Landry was released today, and Njoku's been tagged.
Wait, what?
Now they got Amari.
Did they really release Jarvis?
They released Jarvis Landry.
I did not know that. I saw that they were giving him the chance to make. I've been completely focused on one thing today, so I have not seen any of them. Like, I just saw CJ Uzama went to the Jets, but I have not seen anything outside of that. So, well, that sucks. Thank you, Jarvis, because I really do feel like he changed the culture in the Cleveland Browns locker room when he came over. I honestly, that was one of the things that really upset me about this trade, is that they seem to like so quickly be willing to part with Jarvis, because I still think he is a good wide receiver. I'm wishing him the best. For Cleveland, I don't know. I'm torn on it. Like, you guys know I'm not the biggest Amari Cooper fan. I feel like he's overrated. I feel like when I look at it from like a fantasy side of things, I don't think he's an alpha there, but I do think he's an alpha for NFL purposes. Like, he's one of the best 32 wide receivers in the league, I think. I think that's a fair thing to say. I don't know that I'd put 32 wide receivers ahead of him. The one thing I will say, I feel like it's a double-edged sword with Amari Cooper. Like, I think he might work better for Baker, because he is such a good route runner, where it was like Odell really seemed to be like a deep threat for him most of the time. And I don't know that Baker wants to hold the ball that long. The other issue I have is being down here in Dallas, all the talk is, and has always been, if you don't feed Amari Cooper early, he checks out. Well, I don't think they're going to feed him the ball early. So then if he checks out, is he any better than Odell Beckham Jr. has been for the Browns? And I do think this is a make it or break year for Baker. Like, if Baker doesn't prove something this year, he's at least not getting a contract from the Browns. And I don't know, maybe he doesn't want to be there. It seems like that's been a tumultuous relationship after everything that happened at the end of last season. But I do think it was a good move to bring him in. The fact that they especially for that price tag, like if it was going to be a 3rd round pick, you're going to see a much angrier Matt. 5th round pick, I can deal with that. That's nothing. Most, as Mike, one of the guys at our site pointed out, there's a lot of 5th round guys that don't even stay on rosters. So the fact that they only gave up a 5th really for him is, I'm good with that. Jarvis leaving, though, I think now just puts the wide receiver room back in the same position it was before they brought Cooper in. Like, are they going to draft a wide receiver now at 13? Because if they don't, I know a lot of people are hyping up DPJ. I'm sorry. He's not a wide receiver 2 for a team. He's just not. And so what are they going to do? Continue relying on the 30 tight ends they have on their roster? Like, I don't know that bringing in Amari and then letting Jarvis go helps this team at all. Like, they're going to have to draft a good wide receiver, and it can't be someone they take in the 3rd or 4th round like they've done in the previous drafts. They're going to have to go get, in my opinion, a Garrett Wilson, a Drake London, or a Traylon Burks at 13 to help Cooper and to help Baker, because I do think while it's not as bad as the Giants have and how they failed Daniel Jones, I do think in a way the Browns have failed Baker Mayfield the first couple years of his career.
Well, they failed him due to organizational ineptness, Hugh Jackson being the coach and that failed Baker. But I don't think that the overall strategy for the Browns offense isn't going to change from what it was last year. And what we as Browns fans have to accept is they can really only support one wide receiver. And I think Amari does most of what Jarvis does, and then he does other things really well also. So I think Amari having a much broader skill set is going to be more beneficial. He's probably going to have 145, 150 targets this year. They're going to bring somebody else in, but it's going to be, I don't want to say Josh Reynolds because it's probably going to be somebody a little better than that, but it isn't going to be somebody at the level of Jarvis.
Let me ask you this, Dennis, because I did see the one rumor because someone tagged me in it. They're apparently one of the teams in on Allen Robinson. If they brought in A-Rob and Cooper, I would feel a lot better than I do right now. If they brought in a Josh Reynolds, not so much.
Right. I think it's going to be somewhere between that because I don't think you can support. I don't think that offense can support Amari Cooper and Allen Robinson. Well, it can support Josh Reynolds and Amari Cooper. I think there needs to be. You need more out of that second receiver.
Do you even need to target Josh Reynolds?
He signed his contract first. He got re-upped quicker than just about anybody. So clearly, there's value to him. No, but they need. So they're a run-heavy team that employs a lot of 12 personnel. So that we have to accept that that's who they are. I think the bigger issue for Baker is that they have been open about their desire for Deshaun Watson. I feel like we're going to be in for a season of Pouty Baker, and Pouty Baker is not a winner. I don't know that he has the ability. If they don't get Deshaun Watson and ship Baker out somewhere, I don't know if Baker has the mental fortitude to just shake it off and say, I'm your guy. I'm going to show you why you were wrong. I'd like for him to be able to do that, but I just don't know if he can. They do need a second wide receiver, but I think, Garrett Wilson or Treylon Burks, to me, I think that's just, I don't want to say that it's a recipe for disaster because they're quality receivers. I just don't think there's enough volume to support 250 target wide receivers.
Yeah, and I still think I'm with Matt. They probably go and get somebody in the first round because I part of me feels like the Jarvis Landry was a little bit a salary cap move because they are a team that had some cap issues, which is what makes me a little speculative of getting Allen Robinson. Maybe that's a piece they're trying to get to stay in the Deshaun Watson hunt. It seems like Watson's really narrowed down to the Panthers and the Saints at this point in time. So, Baker is playing for a contract because if I recall, he's playing on his 5th-year option. So he needs to show out, and him being pouty and going into the bag isn't going to do anything for his future. Might as well play better. That's kind of the Browns side, probably still an incomplete picture. It's also a little incomplete picture on the Dallas side. We started getting inklings that they wanted to move on from Cooper, and it made a lot more sense when they talked about being close to getting Michael Gallup. Gallup going to re-sign 5 years, $62.5 million, a pretty sizable investment in Michael Gallup. Seemed to be deciding that Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz, who got the franchise tag, and CeeDee Lamb is the receiving core they want to move forward with. They did lose Cedric Wilson. But Dennis, what do you think of the revamped Dallas passing core? You're muted.
It's a little bit shallow, and maybe it's just because we're so used to Dak chucking the ball around. Losing Cedric Wilson on top of Amari Cooper, I don't think Noah Brown is the answer there. I could see if Treylon Burks is there when Dallas picks, I could see Jerry Jones and his Arkansas love saying we're going to take Treylon Burks also. That's kind of where I feel at. We just had a mock NFL mock draft release, and Raju Byfield, he had Burks fall to Dallas, which I thought was kind of funny because it was like last year, or 2 years ago when they had no intention of taking CD Lamb, but he was there, and Jerry's like, I had to. They need another receiver in Dallas. I don't know if it's coming through free agency or if it's coming through the draft, but they do need. I'm good with Gallup as the 2, with Lamb as the 1, but they need a 1, or they need a third receiver, somebody that can step up. Noah Brown is like the perfect 4th receiver because he's a good blocker. He's a good special teams player, but you need more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say first off, I'm excited for Gallup. I mean, I think all 3 of us are big fans of his. We've talked for years about how much fun it would be to see him get to be a 2 on a team, or get to be able to go be that guy. And now he gets that chance opposite of CeeDee Lamb with the team that he's been with. Obviously, hopefully he comes back healthy. I think it's a good thing for him. I think when he's been healthy on the field, I feel like him and Dak have had a pretty good connection. And now he's there, and it's just going to be him and Lamb. I mean, I know they tagged Dalton Schultz, so he'll be back, who had a big season last year. But I think overall it's a good thing for Gallup. I think they lost Cedric Wilson today too, didn't they? He went somewhere else. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that is the talk. I know Ray Garvin has been talking a lot about that as well, that if Traylon Burks falls because of Jerry Jones being the Arkansas alum and being in love with that school, there's no way he lets Traylon Burks fall past the Cowboys. So we'll see if they draft a wide receiver, but I think as long as Gallup and Lamb are able to stay healthy, they still have one of the better duos in the NFL.
Yeah, and I like Lamb. I hope he gets more targets. I'm also excited for Gallup. Hopefully he gets to stay on the field a little bit more. We'll get involved. I thought they developed a real good rapport with Dalton Schultz, which may actually answer the question of whether they need another marquee wide receiver. I think that's part of why they tagged Schultz. They liked what their offense looked like with some of those guys, but we shall see. Before we end this top part of the news block, we're going to rotate to a little bit of quarterback hot stove. 2 more quarterbacks had their fates kind of confirmed or decided. First of those is our man, Kirk Cousins, who somehow continuously gets these giant extensions, signs another $35 million extension, which ties him to Minnesota, not just for this season, but at least through next season, looking at how much of a cap hit it would be to get him released. Matt, you are a giant Kirk Cousins fan. How are you feeling?
I think it makes some sense. I mean, they have a connection, right? Him and is O'Connell, right? It's 1 year. It's a 1 year extension. I don't think this means Cousins is bound to stay in Minnesota for the rest of his career. I'm sure Minnesota fans don't necessarily love this, as it seems like they've really soured on Kirk. But if you realistically look at what the guy's done every single year, like, he puts up good stats. Would he have 33 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions last year? Now, I didn't look, but I'm sure he had a lot of fumbles. He does seem to fumble the ball, but overall, Cousins puts up stats. He plays well. I just don't think he's a guy who's going to get, you over the top, unfortunately. So I think it's a good thing for them, though. Keeps the offense intact, and a team that, was decent. They almost made the playoffs last year, did they not? Or am I misremembering that? Like, they weren't that far out.
Yeah, they were. They were very close, actually, closer than any of us wished.
So Kirk suffers kind of from what Matt Stafford suffered from. You're not winning the big one until you win the big one. And so Kirk just hasn't kind of gotten over that hump. It's a team game, but the quarterback gets the blame. Kirk is an above average quarterback. The quarterback market is crazy. So he gets another $35 million to extend his deal. Now he's got 3 good wide receivers, 2 good running backs. Hopefully he's got Irv Smith back. We'll see what O'Connell can do. And we'll get to see, does Thielen come back from that last injury and kind of take his role back, or does KJ Osborne start to usurp more of those targets? But I like Cousins. I mean, for fantasy, I think he's if I'm in a super flex league, I love having Kirk Cousins as my second quarterback because that means my second quarterback is, typically around like that QB 12. And you want to have, your goal is to have 2 top 12 quarterbacks, preferably one in the top 5 and then the other one still in the top 12. And Kirk often will deliver that for you.
Yeah, and I think for me, Minnesota's probably making a good decision based on if you really think that it was maybe you needed a coaching change to get the most out of that roster, you want to see what they're going to be able to do. And looking around the quarterback landscape, they may not be in love with anyone. All they had was Kellen Mond behind him. And if you move on from Cousins, are you trapped in a situation like the Colts currently are, where they have Sam Ehlinger and they're seeing all their potential options after shipping off Wentz kind of drying up? They made an inquiry for Watson and the Texans were like, we're in the same division, kiss off. So, locking up Kirk Cousins, who's a competent quarterback with the rest of the core they have, sort of makes sense. The other big quarterback signing today is the Pittsburgh Steelers signing Mitch Trubisky. It's a 2-year deal. They haven't announced terms, but it certainly seems like most people feel he's at least going to be the bridge starter. How does that strike you, Dennis?
Well, the talk is he's there. He's going to compete with Mason Rudolph, which means he's going to come in and have to learn an offense and not get enough snaps to learn it adequately. So therefore, Mason Rudolph will end up playing to start the year, and it's going to be a shit show. But maybe I'm projecting. I think Trubisky deserved to, he earned another shot. Is he a QB1 for fantasy? I don't think so. But I definitely think he's probably one of the 20 best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. At least he should get a chance to prove that. Maybe 24 best. I like what Trubisky brings to the table. It all comes down to, can he overcome some of the decision-making issues he had in Chicago and some of the accuracy stuff that I think was part of the decision-making. He's mobile. He can get you those extra yards when need be. He's got good size. And he does have a good arm. And, you could do worse than Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, Chase Claypool as your primary targets. That's for sure. And signing him is going to allow them to pursue offensive linemen, which they desperately need via draft and other free agency options.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting signing. I mean, we talked a lot about that on Friday, right? Like, where's the best place for him to go? And none of us brought up Pittsburgh. I think we all talked about like Indy and New Orleans because of just kind of the offenses. The one thing I'll continue to say is, as a Browns fan, I always say I hate to say it, but the Steelers are one of the best run organizations in all of football, and Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches. He's giving Matt Canada another chance after we all thought he was going to get fired after last year with the way that offense ran. And just looking at some of the quarterbacks that he's coached, because most of his stuff has been in college, he's dealt with some running quarterbacks. So I'm very intrigued to see what Mitch Trubisky does here. Like, I know a lot of people are saying he's a bridge quarterback. I don't know that I want to see what he does this year before I say he's a bridge quarterback, because after that rookie season, we all thought Mitch Trubisky was on the come of breaking out. And then a lot of us think it's Matt Nagy that caused him to have that downfall. I wouldn't be surprised with those weapons. I mean, again, the offensive line is not great, but as Dennis just mentioned, if they're able to get like a guy or two in this draft and help, or maybe get a lineman in free agency and then a guy in the draft and kind of rebuild this a little bit. I mean, Deontay Johnson, Claypool, they're going to draft some wide receiver in the 3rd or 4th round that's going to end up being magnificent, because they always do. And then you get Najee Harris and you've got Pat Freiermuth. Like, this is the best group of talent Mr. Trubisky's had around him in his career. I, as a Browns fan, upset because I was really looking forward to the Mason Rudolph experience this year for the Steelers. I think Mitch Trubisky could be a sneaky good quarterback for them.
Yeah, and I think if they really thought Mason Rudolph had a chance to be the guy, we would have seen some more signs before now. They probably are saying they brought Mitch in to compete, but I wouldn't be surprised if pretty early in the training camp there's some kind of a decision. Mike Tomlin's not a guy to string it out throughout all of preseason, then leave this guy's hanging and leave himself unprepared. I'm curious to see what Mitch can do. I'm one of those people that thought, especially after what we saw in Chicago last year with Justin Fields and Andy Dalton, that we need to see Mitch Trubisky get a shot somewhere else in another system, and I hope he makes the most of it. But NFL free agency, not the only big thing happening this mid-March. Dennis, for those that are following college basketball, what offer does DraftKings have for them?
Oh, it's Christmas time for college basketball fans. College basketball fans, join the action on the court during the biggest tournament of the year with DraftKings Sportsbook. Turn your team's victory into your own big win. New customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. It's that simple. If they win, you win. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still join the college hoops action with DraftKings Pools. Everyone can play free pools all March long for your shot at a share of over $250,000 in prizes. Simply join a pool or answer questions like who will make it to the next round or who will hit the most three-pointers, then track your results. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN. Bet $5 on any college hoops team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. If they win, you win with promo code TPPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook. 21 and older. Restrictions apply. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. In Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Wyoming. 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. That's 1-800-552-4700. Colorado, New Hampshire, 789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana, 877-8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY in New York. Visit opgr.org in Oregon. Call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789 in Tennessee, or 1-888-532-3500 in Virginia. 21 or older, 18 and older in New Hampshire and Wyoming. Physically present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Michigan, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming only. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See http://draftkings.com/sportsbook for details.
We made a joke about how many more helplines they could add. I'm never going to do it again because my goodness.
Just wait till there's one for every single state when all the states allow betting. I
feel like that pretty much was one for every state. Yeah. But in free agency, there were two teams that were spending money like drunken sailors today, and fittingly, both were in the state of Florida. We are going to turn
on the
first.
Water.
Yeah, we're going to turn first to the Miami Dolphins. Their four big kind of marquee signings: Emmanuel Ogbah, 4 years, $65 million; Cedric Wilson, formerly of the Cowboys, wide receiver, to a 3-year, $22.8 million deal; Chase Edmonds from Arizona, the running back, to a 2-year, $12.6 million deal; and Teddy, the man, the myth, the Bridgewater, to a 1-year deal. A 1-year deal they said to be a backup. That one gave me the most pause. But Matt, what of those four, or what two, stand out to you?
I mean, none of them do, because none of them make sense. Teddy Bridgewater makes sense. Backup Tua. I think, Cedric Wilson, what was that deal again? $22 million.
It was 3 years, 22.8.
I guess that's not that bad. Like, he showed flashes last year with Dallas, so it's about 7.3 mil a year. It's not bad. I guess that's fair for a wide receiver of his talent, but I hope they're going to grab somebody else in the draft, because outside of Jalen Waddle, they don't have anything. And I don't think that Cedric Wilson is really striking the fear into any defenses. No offense to, I don't even know if Preston Williams is still on the roster, but Preston Williams and Devontae Parker, because they've done nothing. Chase Edmonds makes no sense to me whatsoever, because I feel like he is Myles Gaskin from the West Coast. Like, I don't understand that one bit. I'm assuming, is Myles Gaskin still on the roster, or is he a free agent? That's what they brought.
He's still on the roster.
Is Salvon Ahmed still on the roster?
He is. They tendered him.
Okay, so I've got no idea what the hell I guess it's because it's Mike McDaniel, and he's coming from the Kyle Shanahan, we're going to run 6 running backs a game theory, and so they're probably going to draft one of those guys in the draft as well, and people are going to think it's a great landing spot. I don't know. I feel like they're going all in on, this is Tua, much like Baker, this is Tua's make or break year, or he's got a year and a half, because I think he's got one more year if they pick up the 5th-year option, but just, I don't know. Miami's very confusing to me.
I don't know if Wilson is more than a wide receiver 3. And if he is not, then I think this is an overpay. But if he can step up and become the wide receiver 2 and kind of push Devontae Parker off to the side, then maybe it's worth it. I feel like it's the Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki show for the most part, but I guess you got to have depth, and if you got the money to spend, I suppose, go get you some. Chase Edmonds, I agree. This looked like it was going to be a prime landing place for a one of the young running backs, but now have Duke they're trying to get Duke Johnson re-signed. They have Gaskin. Looks like Lindsey and Malcolm Brown are both free agents, but they do have Ahmed, Patrick Laird, Jared Doak still on the team along with Edmonds. I mean, given Edmonds $6 million a year, did they sign him to be the starter? I don't know.
Yeah. So the couple things for me about this, it feels like the Wilson deal maybe is whatever they were trying to do with Will Fuller on that bridge deal, where Fuller was never available. Are they just looking for another guy to pull defenses? The Chase Edmonds, to me, that doesn't necessarily rule them out taking a running back, but if their new coach comes from the Mike/Kyle Shanahan tree, they were once that hire was made of Mike McDaniel, I never thought that they were going to use a top 3 pick on a running back, because that wasn't that the way those kind of systems rolled. So maybe they fill something in. Maybe they like Chase Edmonds. I think with the play we saw from Myles Gaskin last year and this signing, this might be the kind of fantasy death knell for any hopes of his value. He was near unplayable at the end of last season. I don't think that gets any better here.
I mean, it's tough to buy into Wilson in the Will Fuller role. I mean, he's very pedestrian when it comes to speed. So it's like he's the opposite of Will Fuller. He's a bigger possession type receiver, not great speed, which is just the opposite of Fuller.
Well, maybe they'll watch them draft a wide receiver and a running back in the draft just to make things more inside.
I just looked up. So looking at Player Profiler, who Cedric Wilson? Guess who Cedric Wilson's most comparable is?
Devontae Parker.
No, Josh Reynolds.
Nice.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed what the Dolphins did, I think you're going to love what the Jaguars did. I'm going to focus on the 3 mostly offensive related signings that they added. the biggest one, Christian Kirk, who goes from Arizona to Jacksonville, 4-year, $84 million. That has him as the 11th highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. Congratulations. Evan Ingram goes from the New York Giants to dropping passes in South Florida for 1 year, can be up to $10 million. And probably the best of their signings, guard Brandon Sheriff goes from Washington, which hurts Washington and should help Trevor Lawrence, and he is going to sign with the Jaguars. So, Dennis, what do you make of these signings? DJ Chark still a free agent. Do you think that they bring him back, or is Christian Kirk the answer to the receiver question?
Well, I think they have the money to bring Chark back, and I think Chark would certainly fit there with Kirk and with Laviska. Kirk and Wilson kind of had the same thing from both of their signings, and Jeff Manns was talking about it earlier today on Sirius XM. What he said is basically they're paying these guys to do things they've never done in their past, which is a mistake. And so I feel like they're paying Kirk to be a wide receiver 1-2, a 1B wide receiver, maybe even the 1A wide receiver at that price. And he's never done it before. And it's hard to say that you can be comfortable with that. Ingram is a serviceable tight end. I think he's going to be fine. He's going to drop some passes. We can get into the analytics debate about drops don't matter. They I'll be honest, by and large, drops don't matter. Some drops matter more than others, but by and large, they don't matter. It depends on whether or not they matter is purely situational. So I think having an athletic tight end to pair with Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne and Christian Kirk, he'll be able to split the seam. He's got good speed. I'm not expecting him to be, tight end 4 this year.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of excited for Kirk. I don't know that I'd have paid him that much money, and I feel like if
I'd be
you're
more excited for
Devontae,
him if I was his friend and he could spend some of that money with me.
yeah, I mean, I think if you're Devontae Adams too, looking at all these low end wide receivers getting paid this money, I understand why he doesn't want to play on the franchise tag now all of a sudden. But with Kirk there, I mean, no offense to Kyler Murray, but I think Trevor Lawrence has a better arm. And I'm very intrigued to see what happens here with them, especially if he's the one. I mean, I know they've got Laviska Shenault. Seems like DJ Chark's probably not coming back. Don't think Chenault's really going to challenge Kirk and what Kirk's going to be.
Too.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
Kirk,
just
I
telling
think
you
is.
who they currently have.
I'm just saying. I think Kirk's probably going to be their one. So I'm curious to see what that looks like because we've seen Arizona's passing offense. Really, since Kirk's been there, has been centered around one wide receiver. It was Larry Fitzgerald, and then it kind of went to DeAndre Hopkins when Hopkins came over. They've never really spread the ball out a lot, in my opinion. So I'm very curious to see what he looks like there. The Evan Ingram one makes no sense to me. You gave up a top cornerback last year to get Dan Arnold, and now you're bringing in another tight end. And it's not like they brought in a really good pass blocking tight end where it's oh, hey, well, we're still going to use Dan Arnold on the offensive side of things, and Evan Ingram's going to be kind of like our blocker. Now, they both kind of do the same thing, so that made no sense to me whatsoever. I feel like it's just the Jaguars looking at the market, oh, hey, we've got a lot of money to spend. Let's just grab guys who people think are good and let's see what happens.
Well, in Arnold's defense, though, no rational coach would have traded a top-end cornerback for him. I mean, that was Urban Meyer. I mean, Urban was like, this dude's pissing me off in practice. He won't take my bullshit. You're out of here. That's what that trade felt like.
But at the same time, Dan Arnold, when he came in and started playing, developed a rapport and was one of the most explosive and reliable weapons for the Jaguars before he got hurt. So I'm with Matt. That's the part of this that didn't make sense to me. I'm kind of excited to see what Christian Kirk can do because I feel like we saw flashes of it. And, early in his career, Larry Fitzgerald was kind of slot blocking him. And now, last year, that offense was all over the board to me, even when Kirk was by far the only good receiver they had out there because you had AJ Green's corpse and everybody else was injured. They still weren't getting him the ball consistently. Maybe this helps. I feel like the Jaguars aren't done. They either are going to draft another receiver or maybe go make another splash. There were some people talking about they're trying to get Allen Robinson back. I don't know how I feel about poor Allen Robinson. The career trajectory just bouncing around.
Trevor Lawrence will be the best quarterback he's ever played with.
That's right.
You got to give him that at least.
Maybe. I don't know. I guess we'll find out in a few years.
I mean, I think Justin Fields is better.
Yeah, that's what
I feel like Robinson was kind of checked out at that point. So I can't, him now going to Trevor Lawrence is the best he's had.
Well, as our time here is, go ahead.
I was just going to say, look, what Jacksonville is doing is they're just trying to get as many talented players as they can and then let them fight it out to see who's best. They're like, we got money. Let's just bring in people that seem to have talent.
It's like the Squid Game of second-tier offensive players. Well, as our time is getting short, we want to save some time at the end for a big announcement for Campus to Canton. It is a huge day. I am going to rapid fire through a few more of these signings and then throw it to you guys to highlight one or two that were of interest to you. So Washington Commanders gave a 3-year extension to offensive coordinator Scott Turner, so he will be back for a few years. Buffalo Bills had a couple of signings today. Isaiah McKenzie, as long has been rumored, 2-year deal to come back, and they got guard Roger Saffold, who was released by the Tennessee Titans. The Bears signed Larry Ogunjobi, the defensive tackle, 3 years, $40.5 million. J.C. Jackson leaving the Patriots and signing with the Chargers, 5 years, $82.5 million. Making moves on defense there. Mo Alley Cox re-signs with the Colts, 3 years, $18 million. Will Dissly resigns with the Seahawks, 3 years, $24 million, because the Seahawks saw what the Browns did, tagging Njoku to give them 3 tight ends and said, hold my beer, because they have Noah Fant and Gerald Everett already. And then Hassan Reddick signed 3 years, $45 million, new pass rusher for the Eagles. And Dennis's man, the myth, the legend, Braxton Berrios, a 2-year, $12 million deal to return to the Jets. So I will kick it to you, Dennis. Which of these deals piques your interest?
Well, if I'm in a league with return yardage, it's the Braxton Berrios deal. No, just kidding. Look, from a football perspective, I like the Ogunjobi deal. I think putting him in the middle of a defense is always a good move. Scott Turner basically said, all right, if you want me to take on Wentz, you got to give me an extension so I can at least be here when we get a good quarterback. Sorry, Carson. It's just the way it's looked, man. And as far as the tight ends go, Dissly's the blocking tight end. He's a capable receiver, but he doesn't bring the athleticism that Everett or Fant do. He's going to play a different role.
Let's see here. You know what? I'm going to go off the offensive side of things. J.C. Jackson to the Chargers only because they are loading up. They made the Khalil Mack trade. I know there was another move they made as well, and now they bring in arguably the top cornerback on the market and one of the best in the league in J.C. Jackson. I mean, the Chargers are pushing all in to challenge for the AFC crown. And again, I think it just speaks to Denver brings over Russell Wilson last week. You know the Chiefs have got Patrick Mahomes, and they're still one of the best teams. Like, that AFC West is going to be so much fun to watch for the next couple seasons.
Yeah, somebody
with
like
Allen, I would say with Allen, Williams, Palmer, and Guyton, I think the Chargers push for maybe one of the best top 4 wide receiver groups in the league.
Yeah, somebody likened the AFC West to the SEC today because of all the signings and all the players kind of going over there. And I thought that J.C. Jackson one stood out to me. The Chargers are making some big moves to shore up the defense. I like that they kept Mike. Well, I don't like it as a Denver fan, but as a fan of the NFL and of Justin Herbert, I thought that was a good move, keeping Mike Williams. Another one on here that's interested me is Isaiah McKenzie. You talk about if you get return yardage. He's a pretty electric punt and kickoff returner, and we saw him getting involved and adding some speed in a different dimension to that offense. I like Gabe Davis maybe getting more of a shot, but I think part of the reason they were okay with moving on from Cole Beasley is they like what they saw in McKenzie. I'm curious to see kind of what he does there. Dennis, a lot of moves, a lot of players swapping, a lot of our assumptions about the draft are changing. Where can people go if they need to get advice as they try to dominate in their dynasty league?
If you want to keep up with the changes and you want to see what's going on and make sure you stay ahead of the curve, you want to get the Dynasty GM from dynastynerds.com. It's the tool you need to get the job done. It integrates seamlessly with MFL, Sleeper, Flea Flicker, and FFPC leagues. Use the league analyzer to identify your team's strengths and weaknesses. Use the trade calculator to put together league-winning deals. The player shares tracker to keep track of your rostership. Get exclusive rankings and more. Use code ROUNDTABLE for 15% off the monthly or annual subscription. Bundle the Dynasty GM with the Nerd Herd to save even more.
Well, I'm sure by the time we reconvene on Friday, there will be approximately 175 additional signings. This isn't even actually the first official day of the new league year, which is Wednesday when all this can become official. Still a lot of big names out there, but for us, we've been proud to have our podcast as part of the Campus to Canton Network. Great site that our friend here, Matt, is a co-founder of, and it is a huge day for Campus to Canton. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we just launched our new redesigned website, which we are very proud of. It was a lot of time in the making, as Felix, I believe, said on his video today. It's honestly thanks to all of you who subscribed to us. You guys, believed in us and subscribed to us, and we were able to take that and reinvest it into the site, into our team. We've got a ton of other stuff coming. I mean, I talked a little bit about it today on Twitter. Jarek's rankings and ADP tool, I think, is one of the coolest things that nobody else in the industry is doing, where you can literally decide how you want to draft. You can change, immediately changes the ranks in ADP if you want to draft CFF heavy, you want to go Devy heavy, you just want to stick with our C2C ranks, and it changes the ranks to go based on the strategy you want to use on your teams. It's extremely amazing. We've got a ton of other stuff coming out tonight. I don't want to say it because we are going live. Probably by the time you guys listen to this, we will already have been live. You guys can go back to the YouTube channel and check it out. We're going to have a live show tonight with all of us on there for probably about 30, 45 minutes, just kind of explaining all the other stuff. We've got so many other things coming we don't want to announce yet that we're going to do tonight for the 2022 season. Just a big thank you to everybody who supported us. I mean, it's been an insane year, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's all because of you guys. So thank you very much.
Yep, and if you haven't, head on over to campustocanton.com and make sure you get the NIL subscription. A lot of new subscription packages, but that's the one you want. That's the best one. You guys have anything else you want to add before we sign off for this Monday?
We did forget the weapon of all weapons in Jacksonville, Laquan Treadwell.
He's a free agent, so unless they re-signed him today, I
Dang
didn't.
it.
I mean, I've tried to block out the horror of the top of that rookie draft when everybody said he was the can't miss prospect. I'm sure Minnesota fans probably just turned us off and blocked us after bringing him back up. What a way to end. All right. Well, we'll see you on Friday.